What's up, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about Joseph checking up on his brothers and them deciding that they was gonna kill that boy. His brother Reuben jumped in and tried to save him by telling them to just throw him in a hole instead of killing him. And while Reuben was gone, they decided to sell him off to be a slave to some traders from Egypt who just happened to be passing through. And now we caught up. So I know I just did that recap when I talked about what happened last week, but just put that on the shelf for a couple of weeks, because we about to talk about something that ain't got nothing to do with Joseph and his brothers. Well, it got to do with one of his brothers, specifically his brother Judah, and what happened to him after he came up with the idea to sell Joseph off as a slave. Yeah, that was his idea. So chapter 37 start off saying that at the time, Judah left his brothers and moved out to a spot near a Adulamite named Hira. And if you like me, you wondering what the heck is a Adulamite? Not that. And this way knowing what the word mean make a difference. So Adulamite tell you where they from, like calling somebody a Californian or a New Orleanian. And Adulamite mean justice of the people, which I feel like tell us exactly what's about to happen to Judah. So let's see what go down. It say he married a Canaanite wife and had 3 sons with her. He got a wife for his first son, and her name was Tamar, not that Tamar. So then they say the Lord killed because he was evil. So Judah told his second son, Onan, like Conan but without the C, to go smash his sister-in-law so she could have a son in his brother's name. And before y'all say I'm wildin', it's in the book. See, it's right there. Now, I didn't talk about this before, but I'm gonna address it again. You gotta remember that this wasn't written in the year 2000 or 2018 or even 2024. It was wrote at a different place in a different time. So you can't expect that the customs and the traditions gonna be the same as what we got. Heck, just in this country, folks got different customs and traditions depending upon where they from and who they people is. Back then, it wasn't like Tamar could just thaw out some of her old man's baby batter to have a kid. The custom was that the next brother or kin had responsibilities to their brother if he passed, and one of them was to give him a son. Some of y'all might hear that and wonder why having a son was so important. The thing is, most societies back in the day was patriarchy. If you don't know what that is, essentially it just means that men run things in the society. If you hear that and think that ain't no different from today, well, you ain't wrong. But it was more to it. Wasn't none of this back then. In that culture, most women couldn't own property, couldn't get a job outside the house, and couldn't even decide on who they was gonna marry. All of that was controlled by whatever man was responsible for them. Before they got married, it was usually their daddy. Once they got married, it was their husband. If their husband died, they usually went back to their daddy. And if their husband died, but they had a son who was a grown man, their son usually took care of him. And that's the other piece to this. Being the patriarch of the family ain't just mean you got to tell everybody what to do. It also meant you was responsible for them, especially the women, since society was set up where they couldn't get out there and get it on their own. And that bring us back to Tamar. If she ain't have no son, she ain't have nobody to inherit her husband's stuff or to take care of her. So her brother-in-law Onan was supposed to handle business and give her a son. But that boy decided he was gonna pull out instead. And he did that a few times. And they say God ain't like that, so he killed him too. And let's be clear, he ain't just kill him for spilling a baby batter. He killed him because he was smashing his sister-in-law, but ain't want a baby to come from it because he knew that baby wasn't gonna be his. It was gonna be his brother's. A lot of old folks say this verse mean you ain't supposed to just be out here jerking off. I ain't saying you are supposed to be. We'll get into that later in the book, but that ain't what this verse talking about. So that's it for this week. If you don't know Jesus, but you're trying to get to know him, go and click that first link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week, and as always, peace, and I hope y'all people straight.